Israeli President Isaac Herzog has said that the latest attacks from Iran constituted a declaration of war against the state of Israel. Israel, which said it was already mulling the options before it, since it understood the repercussion of what had happened, also disclosed it was discussing with its partners across the world. The G7 also met in the light of the development and to review the situation, but immediately committed to the security of Israel. This came as the Israeli War Cabinet over the weekend vowed to exact a price from Iran at a time suitable to it following the launch of 300 ballistic missiles and drones at the country by Iran on Saturday. Israeli Defense Forces said 99% of the projectiles were intercepted. A total of 170 drones, 30 cruise missiles, and 120 ballistic missiles were fired at Israel on Saturday, the Israeli military said. Well, joining us now is Ambassador Joe Keshi. He's going to help us look at all of these issues. Ambassador Keshi, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Wow. Prime Minister
good morning,
Rishi Sunak.
Thanks for having me.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is saying that calm heads, cool heads should prevail. The United States is saying it's not going to get involved in the case of the escalation of the war. But the genie is already out of the bottle. Israel is saying, after an Israeli War Cabinet meeting over the weekend, that offensive and defensive actions will be taken at a time of their own choosing, so Gazant said. So what are we dealing with? The possibility of a third world war?
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. And good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
And to your question, Ruben, I doubt if we are close to a third world war. Let me start by telling you the game diplomats play sometimes. Country A, for example, will issue a public statement attacking country B. As soon as that statement is making the headlines, country A calls the envoy of country B to the foreign office, and says, please advise your country to ignore the statement. That statement was for domestic, I emphasize that word, for domestic consumption. When you look at what has happened in the last couple of days, I think that this is what, in my view, Iran has foolishly done. And I use the word foolishly done, knowing fully well that for a couple of years, particularly under the leadership of Netanyahu, Israel has been looking for an excuse to hit Iran. And I bet you today that when they do that, they're not just going to hit at random, they are going to hit at Iran's nuclear facilities, because this is what they've been wanting to destroy all these years. The only thing that can deter them from doing that now, and I doubt if they can actually, is the plea by the United States and the ally to say, look, Israel should exercise some restraint because nothing significant was destroyed in Israel. The Iranians should have known that, if they do not know, at least now they know, that Israel has an ironclad defense system, which has actually, proven to be stronger than most people thought. But the only revelation about this whole thing is that there are some Arab countries who are actually cooperating with the United States and Israel to ensure the defense of Israel. Because most of those, projectiles, as you call them, actually did not even get to land in Israel. They were intercepted before they got to Israel by other, installations made by the United States and Israel in a number of Arab countries. So the final thing, you begin to wonder that the Iranians should have known very well that this was a risky venture. And I have never liked the idea of leaders unnecessarily taking risk that will eventually, cause harm and damage to the citizens. You saw exactly what has happened to Gaza. Look at how many people Hamas killed or took as refugees when they attacked Israel. Israel has killed over 30,000 people in Gaza. And the same thing could happen again if the world fails to persuade Israel to exercise some restraint. And I doubt if they will exercise some restraint. As they have said, they will strike at the time they choose. And I can bet you today, and I repeat myself, that they will go after the Iranian nuclear facilities, because this is what they've been wanting to destroy all these years.
Okay, you are right. I mean, Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates have also joined the US, Russia, China, the UK to urge restraint. But would that happen? I mean, on April 1, the Israelis attacked the Damascus, the consulate of the Iranians in Damascus. And now we have this. And then, of course, we have the open threat of the war escalating. Would there be escalation? Would it not happen? All of us will watch. Ayo?
All right. Well, talking about escalation, okay, I thought you were going to respond, but let me just ask my question and then you can respond to both. Talking about escalation, you talked about the allies of Israel. How about on the other side of the divide? A number of people have analyzed the situation to see that in the event that there's an escalation, what chances does Iran have? Yes, people might wonder, okay, who started it first? Israel was the one who poked them by the attack on the consulate in Damascus, and Iran was just responding. However, they're also saying that in the events that this response would be there'll be retaliation, which, like you've mentioned, very likely. What defense does Iran have? What chances do they have going against Israel? And who are currently their allies?
I think in one conversation we've had, I've made this very clear that I'm not too sure any of the Arab countries are in the mood to join. I mean, they want an escalation. And I'm not too sure they want to join in this battle. If they had any intention to join, they would have actually gone in to begin to defend the people of Gaza. Egypt is not going to get involved. Saudi Arabia is not going to get involved. Jordan will not get involved. So Iran is isolated in this matter. And that's why I said they did something foolish. Look, I'm not against Iranians' right to retaliate. All these years, Iranians have been operating through their subsidiaries all over the region. And they should have done that with these same subsidiaries.
Hezbollah,
Houthi rebels.
Yes, Hezbollah and code. Exactly. I call them Iranian subsidiaries all over the place. But to begin to shoot directly from Israel. And you saw what happened. Again, to go back to my initial statement. Immediately this was going on, they informed the people, and every Iranian was on the street rejoicing that their country have done something great. No, your country has not done anything great. It has done something foolish, in my view. Because I am very confident, knowing fully well that when the Israelis strike, they are not going to be as foolish and just hit one or two mini targets. You know? So this is a point that I'm not too... Look, if the world can persuade Israel not to escalate, not to go after Iran for now, well, that would be nice. But I doubt. Netanyahu has never listened to anybody, as far as I know. It has never listened to its allies who are now pleading with him not to retaliate, at least not now. But this is a game that will continue. And as Ruben asked, I'm not too sure it will lead to any world war, because no Arab nation today, not Israel, not Saudi Arabia, not the Qatars, not Jordan, you name them, they are not prepared to get involved in this crisis. Okay. All they want to do is offer humanitarian assistance.
Okay, Ambassador Keshi, I'd like to disagree with you slightly and with the analogy, because today you're painting Iran as the bad person, but actually Iran knew what they were doing when they made this attack. And if you had followed the wires last week, Iran contacted Oman to tell the Americans that they were going to have this kind of retaliatory attack, but it was going to be moderate and measured not to be able to escalate the crisis. So all of this atiaboke we are doing for, hang on a minute, sir. All of this atiaboke we are doing for Israel today is misplaced because, and this clap we are doing for Israel today, that, oh, they have the Iron Dome system and the Arrowhead. Israel didn't do a lot of repelling of those missiles. It was these same Americans that got their fighter jets in the air, and the British and the Jordanians to repel most of these attacks. All of this, hey, all of a sudden, Iron Dome is trending on Twitter. We are praising Israel. No, it wasn't. And it was this same America that stepped in because the Iranians had told them that we don't want squabble and to escalate the situation. And that's why they pre-informed them the kind of missiles that would even come in. And that's why the Americans were able to defend in the first place. So are we not being giving Netanyahu too much props? Because now you're saying if nobody can tell him not to react, Netanyahu is not in the picture. It's the West that is fighting this war. It's not in the picture. There was nothing Israel did over the weekend. It was the Americans and the British that still came in place that got their fighter jets in the air before those missiles went and shot down most of those drones, except the one that landed in Negev Desert, which was very minimal impact. And the reason why the people protested in Iran was because the Iranian authorities lied to them that they hit all their targets. If you watch Iranian state TV, they were lying to them that they hit most of their targets, which is a lie, which we all know is a lie now. So are we not giving Netanyahu too much props? Much ado about nothing for Netanyahu.
No, Rufai, you've just confirmed all what I've been saying. You've just confirmed, you are not disagreeing with me. You're actually confirming exactly what I've been saying. The only difference is that you said they informed the Americans well ahead that they would do this. In fact, Iran is going around today telling every embassy they can reach that they'll finish their operations. If you are serious-minded and if you really want to, retaliate in the true sense of retaliation, you probably do something more strategic than they have done. Look, I'm not blaming Iran for retaliating. Iran has a right to retaliate. All I'm saying is that they would have done a proper analysis of what they want to do, rather than this show of, show some minimal force and what they have and the rest of it. Look, the region is already on high alert. The region is tense with the war going on in Gaza. And I think that today, the people in that region, the Arab states, should actually concentrate on saving the people in Gaza rather than escalating or expanding the war. You virtually have confirmed what I said from the beginning. I said from the beginning that we do call nations and say, look, ignore this. This is for domestic consumption. You said they informed the Americans. Before they even did what they did, they formed other nations. You are virtually confirming what I have said. Yes, I'm not giving Netanyahu, whatever you call it. I'm only saying I know for years Netanyahu has been looking for an excuse to go after Iran. Now Iran has offered that, has given them that excuse to go after the nation. Secondly, I have said this before. No, Netanyahu has not listened to anybody, at least as far as this Gaza issue is concerned. It was only recently, following an American threat and the threat by the President of the United States, that they started shifting position a little bit before they refused to shift position. So let's be clear about this.
Ambassador Keshi.
They will retaliate. There's no doubt about that.
Ambassador Keshi.
Yes, sir.
Let's look at the role of the United Nations Security Council. There was an emergency meeting where both Israel, the Israeli UN representative, was calling for more sanctions against Iran. And the United States was also calling for sanctions against Iran. Now, how does that affect geopolitics? Now, oil prices were not immediately affected, but if the crisis escalates, oil prices will go up. Both Brent crude and WTI. Absolutely. And so, what should be our own interest as Africans in this matter? Should Nigeria be saying, well, let them fight so that we can make more money from crude oil? Iran is the third largest oil producer, So if there is a crisis in Iran affecting supply and the Strait of Hormuz, which accounts for a third
Almost.
of the global oil supply is affected, then of course it will also have implications for other members of OPEC. I would like you to deal with those geopolitical issues.
Well, with regard to the Security Council, I doubt if any resolution will be passed. I expect that the Russians may veto it if it comes to that. I don't know what the Chinese will do, but I'll be surprised if the Russians do not veto that resolution. So we'll be back to square one. As for the rise of oil, most likely if it escalates, but I doubt if it will get to that extent. But if it escalates, I'm not too sure whether we, as a country, will benefit much from the high price of oil as things are now, because of our inability, first of all, as it is today, to meet our quota, and then to be able to ramp up, scale up production to be able to gain. But look, I think what the world is trying to do, what the leaders of the world are trying to do, is to prevent an escalation of the crisis beyond where it is currently. And this is why the United States president has made it clear that they will not join Israel in any attack on Iran. All I'm saying is that I sincerely hope that they can restrain Israel from going after Iran for now, and let's just hope that we can restrict the crisis to Gaza and find a way of ending the Gaza wars for the sake of humanity. The people of Gaza have suffered enough, and I just think that this should be the focus of the United Nations as well, immediately after they've debated this latest crisis. I doubt if the resolution will pass. It might be vetoed, and once it's vetoed, there's nothing else anybody can do. So let's focus. Let's go back to the real issue. The real issue for me is saving the lives of the people of Gaza and the Palestinian people.
But can the U.S. or the other allies stop Israel from defending its sovereignty? The right to self-defense, as you yourself pointed out, is a major plank of international law. So can anybody stop Israel whenever Israel decides to strike back?
Well, Ruben, your answer is very clear. In the past, nobody has succeeded in doing that, and I doubt whether they will listen now. But I sincerely hope that the Western allies, who are currently putting pressure on Israel not to retaliate, will continue to do that, at least for now, But the Israelis have also issued a statement saying that they will retaliate at a time and place they choose to. So we'll wait and see. But my hope is that Israel will listen, but I doubt it.
Well, I think you are joining a number of people in saying that you doubt if Israel will listen, because they haven't listened so far in terms of the hostilities or the war against Hamas. But let's talk about the other players in this, the allies you talked about. America, the United Kingdom, big allies, but their president or their leaders, president and prime minister, respectively, are in tight situations. For instance, earlier, the president of America, Joe Biden, had said that whilst they would defend Israel, they will not attack Iran. And he had also been of the opinion in the past in an interview that he didn't agree with Benjamin Netanyahu's war strategy. Of course, we know the American elections are coming up later on this year, and he hasn't been very popular, especially with his stance.
Thank you.
And so I'd like you to what extent will this affect elections, not just in the United States of America and then their position, but also in the United Kingdom and Rishi Sunak's position? How will this play out?
Well, both in the United Kingdom and in the US, there's a large Arab population now. In the last election in the United States, they voted for the Democratic Party. And when this war started, they were actually, unhappy with the way President Biden was handling the situation. And with Biden trailing in the polls, I think that some of the measures, some of the changes, some of the shifts he has made It's as a result of trying to come to what we call to the center in order to be able to, gather some of these votes. Look, he's looking for the votes of the Arab population, and he's trying to maintain the votes of the Israeli population and the supporters of Israel in the United States. So it's a balancing game that is going on for President Biden. And so far, look, I just think that he's trying his best to do that. With regards to Sunak in Great Britain, I just think that with the polls showing that Labour could win, I don't know whether how many of the voting population he could bring on board to ensure that the Conservatives are not defeated. But look, at the end of the day, this is what we need to understand. The Western world as of today is Israel's greatest supporters and backers. And they will continue to back Israel no matter what happens. And that is a reality we need to face. That none of these Western nations will abandon Israel, at least not now, for obvious reasons. And you need to go back to history to find out why they will not abandon Israel, why they will continue to support Israel, and plead with the rest of the world to understand why they are supporting Israel. That's the reality of our time, and we need to live with that.
Okay. So, Ambassador, is that thing that you just said not really the problem? The fact that there's this blind, almost unreasonable, unpractical backing to the shenanigans of Israel. Is that not the problem? Let's go historically, Ambassador. This was the same Israel that after the Balfour Declaration in 1917, that the same British said, oh, we're going to give you this land. Don't worry. It'll take time. But these Israelis did not stop there. They used their militia groups, the Argun and the Shogun, to start attacking British troops and causing all sorts of skirmish. That was what led to the rise of anti-Semitism. So it's not today that we've constantly had an overbearing nature and we see that the West keeps backing them come what may. Is that not the problem here? Because we all know that all of this is because of a certain Netanyahu that is so concerned about his political career, and he saw this attack and he latched onto it to be able to save his political career. This is what is just about the ego of Netanyahu.
Rufai, again, look, you hit the head on the nail. There's no doubt about that. I think when this Gaza crisis started, and I was on one of your shows, I'm not sure whether it was a Good Morning show or one of your other shows, I did say that we all in the world, we are being made to feel that if you go after Israel, if you are not sympathetic to Israel, we are almost being made to feel as if we were part of those who committed the Holocaust. It's as if we are all guilty of the Holocaust. And as a result, we are bound by an unwritten declaration to always support or overlook whatever Israel does to anybody. And that's exactly what you are confirming. I will not disagree with you. And this has been the major problem. And the West are unable to separate themselves from that and come down on Israel and ask Israel to behave. Look, Israel has all the powers to take on everybody in the Middle East. But Israel should also know that it is in its best interest. Sometimes, look, Israel has been fighting for almost 70-something years. One generation after the generation, families, one family after the other, they have lost somebody. And more than 300 or more soldiers have died in this Gaza, How long will a nation continue? Because some of its leaders refuse to be rational and to agree to a peaceful resolution of this by agreeing to a two-state solution that guarantees the security of both Israel and the Palestinians. So you are right, and I will not argue with you on that. But I make that point that we are all being made to feel guilty over Israel. And this is why Israel gets away practically with murder at any given time. And we make excuses for it. And that's the honest truth. Until the West can pin down collectively, agree to tell Israel enough is enough. You need to listen to the words. You need to see some of the writings of the Israeli leaders, particularly the current Minister of Finance, and I think another gentleman that I'm trying to remember his name. They actually want to take over the whole land in that area, and they make no apologies for their positions. So the world has to decide whether it cares about humanity, particularly the people, what goes going on in Gaza today, or they continue to play up to Israel for whatever reason, among which we have just enunciated.
Hopefully, maybe a point will come, a time will come, where we'll be thinking of another structure for global peace beyond the United Nations.
Well, thank you very much for your insights this morning, Ambassador Joe Keshi.